Shalom, this video is about the history of the three main central religious institutions in Jewish history. The first, of course, was the Mishkan in the Torah. In the book of Exodus, the Torah describes, God commands Moses to have the tabernacle erected. It consisted of a Holy of Holies, which had the Ark and the scrolls of the covenant. Even if they were smashed, there were different opinions in Jewish history, but some of the great commentators believe that the broken pieces were also kept in the Ark. And there were various other aspects of the ancient tabernacle, including a table for showbread and the menorah, an altar for the sacrifices. There was a tent structure that surrounded it. And the Levites were charged with taking it apart, putting it together, taking care of it. The Kohanim, the priests, who were the immediate descendants of Aaron, starting with Aaron the high priest, brother of Moses, were the ones who officiated at the services. And then when the camp moved, they would disassemble the Mishkan and pick it up again and put it elsewhere. This is not a house of God. The Torah says specifically, Benuli Asuli Mikdash, make me a Mikdash, V'shachanti betocham, and I will dwell among you. Now when they finally got to Israel and they settled in Jerusalem, and David established Jerusalem as the holy city, he wanted to build a temple, but we learn that God said, no, your son Solomon will build it. So Solomon builds the first temple in the 900s BCE, and it survived until then, until it was destroyed by the Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians in 586 BCE, described there in the first book of Kings. Then the Iranians, the Persians at that time, conquered the Babylonians and let the Jews go back, and they rebuilt the temple, and it survived until the year 70 of the Common Era, when it was destroyed by the Romans. So those are the basic stories of the three main ancient temples. Now, what happened to the Ark? Well, that's a subject of a lot of inquiry. Indiana Jones movie has it sitting in a storage box in JFK Airport. The first book of Kings describes that it was lost after the destruction of the first temple. Second book of Maccabees, which is in the Apocrypha literature, tells a little bit about it too. There's all kinds of speculation. You can see shows on TV which claim it's in this place or in that place. We simply don't know. Now, there are Jews who believe that the third temple should be rebuilt on the same spot. There is, of course, a political problem, which is that the Arabs control it. Now the Temple Mount, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and the Dome of the Rock are up there. But there are very religious kind of extremist Jews who pray for who believe it'll be rebuilt. Orthodox Judaism still prays for it to be rebuilt. Their phrase in the Sabbath Musaf service says, says that we will sacrifice again. The conservative prayer book, even the most traditional way, says, restores to our land where our ancestors once did sacrifice and worship there, and we will once again worship. There are even plans now. People are building some of the different accoutrements to use in the temple. There are young Kohanim who are being trained to do so, but that's kind of a fringe group of Jews, and hard to know what's going to happen when the Messiah comes, but that's considered to be one of the preconditions of the Messianic era for Jews. And I know that there are plenty of Bible-believing Christians who believe that too, the temple will be destroyed. But basically, the Jews today have now their own synagogues. There were synagogues that existed even at the time when the Holy Temples did. But Jews have now their own synagogues, and we model them in some ways after the ancient temple. We have an ark, we have an eternal light, we have a menorah, we have, of course, our Torah scrolls instead of the Ten Commandments that were in the original ark. But we have our own temples, and we remember the ancient temple. And I think the reason why the tabernacle takes up so much of the story of the book of Exodus and intrigues us still, because we're inspired by the dedication of our ancients who, in the midst of their desert experience, responded as they heard God command them, and they were eager to create this visible symbol of their devotion to God. So that's a little bit of the history of the ancient temples.